The Woman Who Wouldn't Stop. Strasbourg. July 1518. It was the middle of summer. The narrow streets were shrouded, the air was hot, and life inside the medieval city continued as it had for generations. Then, a woman stepped into the street. Her name was Frau Trophäa, and she began to dance. There was no music, no celebration, no musicians. She simply moved. Hour after hour, her feet struck the ground again and again. People stopped to watch. Some laughed. Others thought she had lost her mind. But Frau Trophäa didn't stop. She danced through the afternoon, she danced into the evening, and according to historical accounts, she continued for days. Her body was exhausted, her feet were injured, but somehow, she kept dancing. And then something even stranger happened. Other people began to join her. Within days, dozens of people were dancing uncontrollably through the streets of Strasbourg. Soon there would be hundreds. Some supposedly danced until they collapsed. And more than 500 years later, we still don't know exactly why. This is the story of the Dancing Plague of 1518. Chapter 1. Strasbourg. To understand what happened, we need to imagine Strasbourg more than 5 centuries ago. Today the city lies in eastern France, but in 1518, Strasbourg was a free imperial city of the Holy Roman Empire. Life was difficult. The population had recently suffered through poor harvests. Food prices were high. Disease was common. Many families lived on the edge of starvation. There was also enormous religious anxiety. People believed deeply in divine punishment. Illness could be interpreted as the work of God or the devil. And there was one particular saint people feared, Saint Vitus. According to popular belief, Saint Vitus could punish sinners by forcing them to dance uncontrollably. It sounds strange today, but to people living in 16th century Europe, it could feel terrifyingly real. And then, in July 1518, the nightmare appeared to come true. Chapter 2. Frau Trophäa. Very little is known about Frau Trophäa. Even her first name has been lost to history. But records describe something extraordinary. She walked into a street and began dancing. Not happily, not gracefully. This was not a celebration. Her movements appeared compulsive. She seemed unable to control herself. Neighbors watched as the hours passed. Eventually, her husband may have tried to stop her. It didn't work. After several days, authorities reportedly intervened. But by then, Frau Trophäa was no longer alone. Other people had started dancing too. At first, there were only a handful, then more arrived. According to later accounts, within about a week, dozens of people were dancing, and the strange phenomenon continued spreading. Chapter 3. The Plague Spreads. Imagine walking through Strasbourg in the summer of 1518. You turn a corner and find people dancing in the street. Except nobody is smiling. There is no music. Some are crying, others are screaming. Their clothes are soaked with sweat. Their feet are bleeding. Some desperately beg for help, but their bodies keep moving, day after day. The number of dancers apparently increased. Contemporary and later sources differ on the exact numbers, but the outbreak may eventually have involved hundreds of people. The city authorities had a serious problem. They needed to stop the epidemic, so they asked physicians for advice, and the doctors reached a remarkable conclusion. The dancers were suffering from hot blood, and there was only one solution. They needed to dance it out. It would prove to be a terrible idea. Chapter 4. The city makes it worse. Instead of stopping the dancing, the authorities encouraged it. They reportedly cleared spaces where the afflicted could dance. A stage or dancing area was constructed, professional dancers were hired, and musicians were brought in. The logic was simple. If the victims were allowed to keep dancing, eventually the sickness would leave their bodies. So, imagine the scene. Musicians playing in the streets, crowds watching, and exhausted men and women dancing against their will, hour after hour after hour. Instead of curing the outbreak, it may have intensified it. More people joined, the dancing spread, and according to some later chronicles, people began to die. Chapter 5, Dancing to Death. This is where the story becomes controversial. Some accounts claim that at the height of the outbreak, people were dying from exhaustion, heart attacks, strokes, dehydration. One frequently repeated claim says that as many as 15 people per day died, but historians are cautious about this number. The surviving contemporary evidence confirms that the dancing mania was real, but the dramatic death toll may come from later interpretations rather than reliable eyewitness records. So, did people actually dance themselves to death? Possibly. Severe physical exertion for days in summer heat could certainly be dangerous, but we cannot confidently say how many people died, or whether anyone died directly because of the dancing. What we do know is that Strasbourg's leaders eventually realized their original strategy wasn't working. They needed another explanation and another cure. Chapter 6, Saint Vitus. The authorities changed course. Music was banned, public dancing was restricted, and the afflicted were taken away from the city. Their destination was a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, near Saverne. There, the dancers participated in religious rituals. They were given special shoes, prayers were performed, priests conducted ceremonies, and gradually, the outbreak ended. By September 1518, the dancing epidemic appears to have disappeared. Strasbourg returned to normal, but the question remained. What happened? How could hundreds of ordinary people apparently lose control of their bodies? At the same time, for centuries, people have tried to explain it. Chapter 7, Theory 1, Poisoned Bread. One of the most famous theories involves fungus. Rye was a major food source in medieval Europe, but under certain conditions, rye can become infected by a fungus called ergot. Eating contaminated grain can cause ergot poisoning. The symptoms can be horrific: hallucinations, convulsions, muscle spasms, burning sensations, and in severe cases, death. Ergot contains chemicals related to compounds used in the synthesis of LSD. So, the theory seems almost perfect. Perhaps the people of Strasbourg ate contaminated bread, began hallucinating, and started dancing. But there is a problem. Ergot poisoning usually causes severe physical symptoms that would make sustained, coordinated dancing extremely difficult. Victims can suffer violent convulsions, restricted blood flow, and extreme pain. Dancing for days doesn't fit particularly well. Today, many historians consider another explanation more convincing, and it's arguably even stranger. Chapter 8, Mass Psychogenic Illness. The leading modern explanation is something called mass psychogenic illness, sometimes called mass hysteria. This happens when groups of people develop real physical symptoms without an identifiable physical disease causing them. Stress can play an enormous role, and Strasbourg in 1518 was under extraordinary pressure. Years of poor harvests, hunger, disease, poverty, religious fear, social instability. People were exhausted, and crucially, they already believed uncontrolled dancing could be caused by supernatural forces. So, imagine Frau Trophea begins dancing. People watch her. They believe Saint Vitus can curse people with uncontrollable dancing. Then another vulnerable person begins experiencing similar symptoms. Then another. Fear spreads, expectation spreads, and eventually, the symptoms themselves spread. Nobody is pretending. Nobody is consciously deciding to dance. The symptoms are real, but the trigger may be psychological rather than infectious. And there is evidence that similar events happened elsewhere. Chapter 9. It happened before the Strasbourg outbreak wasn't unique. Centuries earlier, other parts of Europe had experienced mysterious outbreaks of compulsive dancing. In 1374, groups of people reportedly danced uncontrollably in towns along the Rhine. Similar episodes appeared in parts of modern-day Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. People danced in groups. Some screamed. Some claimed to see visions. Some believed they were possessed. These outbreaks often appeared during periods of intense social stress, which makes the events of 1518 even more fascinating. Perhaps the dancing plague wasn't a mysterious disease at all. Perhaps it was something hidden inside the human mind, something capable of spreading from person to person, without bacteria, without a virus, and without poison. Fear. Chapter 10, The Mystery. More than 500 years have passed. The streets of Strasbourg look very different today. The people who witnessed the dancing plague are long gone, and much of what happened has been distorted by centuries of retelling. We don't know exactly how many people danced. We don't know how many died. We don't even know precisely what happened to Frau Trophäa. But historical records leave little doubt about one thing. Something extraordinary happened in Strasbourg in the summer of 1518. People danced. They couldn't, or believed they couldn't, stop. Authorities tried to cure them by making them dance even more. And eventually, the phenomenon disappeared almost as mysteriously as it had begun. Maybe it was ergot poisoning. Maybe it was mass psychogenic illness. Maybe the extreme stress of medieval life pushed an entire community beyond its breaking point. But imagine standing there on a hot summer night in 1518. You hear footsteps outside your window. You look down. There is no festival, no celebration, no music, just dozens of exhausted people silently dancing in the street. And then you feel your own foot begin to move. Ending. The dancing plague of 1518 remains one of the strangest episodes in European history. Not because we know exactly what happened, but because we don't. And perhaps the most unsettling possibility is that the cause wasn't hidden in poisoned food or some forgotten medieval disease. Perhaps it was hidden inside the human mind. And if that is true, the dancing plague may not be as distant from us as we'd like to believe. This was the dancing plague of 1518, a summer when an entire city learned that sometimes fear can be contagious.